in charge of the Undersecretary for Human Resource and Organizational Development. Magandang umaga po, Yusek Wilfredo E. Cabral.
Good morning. Thank you very much. Sa lahat po ng ating participants, thank you very much for attending this orientation. Uh, Before I share my screen and while the technical is preparing for it, let me just emphasize that for so long a time, we understand that the school play the major role, schools plays the major role in achieving the organizational outcome. And we have been saying since time immemorial that the quality of education is best fought and won inside the classroom. So the locus of intervention, the locus of effective operation and administration reside within the schools. And our initiative of coming up with a, a seemingly drastic approach to ensure that performance management in the achievement of organizational outcome should bear fruits as what is expected, given that this is an accountability and responsibility that is given to us. So let me start by discussing first what the orientation is all about. I will provide an overall impression on what are we doing, and consequently, all the deep diving and detailed discussion of all of this will follow suit, hoping that you remain uh, attentive and at the same time, while you have probably some clarifications, you are being encouraged to submit that to us, uh, either critical or constructive, so that we can make this initiative really uh, significant for all of us. So this morning, as we start this orientation, I would like to discuss the overview of the interim guidelines on the preparation, submission, evaluation, and approval of the OPCRF. And this is a mechanism that we have been doing for quite a while. And we would like to ensure that the responsiveness of this document is not just a mere burden or a compliance on our side, but a significant document as well for us to review, revisit, and make an honest assessment whether we're moving forward for continuous improvement. So on the next slide, let me present to you the objectives of this orientation. Precisely, we would like to review the agency's organizational outcome. What what is our take on that, and how can we possibly ensure that this organizational outcome is really achieved? What is the or what are the roles of the distinct and significant roles of the division offices, regional offices, the delivery units, particularly in the school, and how to streamline the processes for the achievement of these goals and objectives. And hopefully, we can also establish a strengthened mechanism to elevate our performance. So we will have this discussion flow. I will initially talk about organizational goals and outcomes of the department, how we proceed for the rapid performance management system, and our interim guidelines and our takeoff for the FY 2024 performance management. And lastly is on streamlining commitment, targets, and competencies. So let us take a look on the next slide on the basis of the organizational outcome. So the recalibration of our performance is shown in these connections between and among organizational outcome, which is our agency commitment, and how are this or how is this organizational outcome being broken down into programs as may be defined in the program expenditure classification, and looking at the internal documents that we have, the basic education development plan, and on the strategic priority actions that is contained in the Matatag agenda. So let us take a look at the organizational outcome on the next slide. So the organizational outcome of the department is anchored on several development frameworks and priorities. And that is from a national perspective, we look at international as well, particularly on global education goals, of which we are part of, the societal goals, the sectoral goals, and organizational goals. So these are actually contained in a document which is the framework for the organizational performance indicators. And looking at that, we have this organizational goal for DepEd, of which the outcome should look at the access of every Filipino to an enhanced basic education program, thereby enabling them to prepare for further education in the world of work achieve. So this is very tall order, uh, seemingly huge. But if we're going to look at the way in which this organizational outcome can be achieved through the program expenditure classification as detailed on the next slide, can look at the Prexi in terms of five programs that cuts across all of the operations and mandate of the Department of Education. So we look at Education Policy Development Program, the Basic Education Inputs Program, the Inclusive Education Program, Education Human Resource Development Program, Support to Schools and Learners Program. So what is being done at the central, at the region, and the division should be down to policy that can be implemented down the school and ensure that critical inputs to basic education are also felt in the school, and that we cater to all types of learners that we have for purposes of defining what inclusivity is and ensure that our teaching, non-teaching personnel are provided the needed professional learning and development programs under the Education Human Resource Development and other support to schools and learners program. So this program expenditure classification defines the outcome and the output indicators, and all of this are implemented moving forward, and we use or centers around the principles of fiscal discipline, allocative efficiency, and operational efficiency. The fiscal discipline, as I may point out, is that it is a principle that we say that we are utilizing our fiscal resources on the intent of what is really needed. So the intention of which is to ensure that we utilize on the right things, no? And allocative efficiency and operational efficiency should go hand in hand with the fiscal discipline, knowing the fact that we have uh, limited budget, and we are given within the limits of fiscal discipline. We need to ensure that these principles are upheld in all our daily operations. So on the next slide, I will talk about the basic education development plan. We understand that sometime in 2022, and which was also adopted, this basic education development plan has been the working document as a national goal of the Department of Education, which covers the four pillars of access, equity, quality, resiliency, and well being. So we look at some of the critical success indicators that all our school age children, whether and even OSYs and adults, are given access to relevant basic learning opportunities. And even those children in the issue of equity, they are given that benefit of being provided the equity initiatives, whether they are situated in disadvantaged or depressed areas. In whatever situation on that, uh, that they are in, we provide that opportunity for them to benefit from the basic education learning opportunities. And in terms of quality, we look at the successful attainment of the learning standards, so that we believe that our learners will be able to cope uh, with the changing demands as they grow and realize these aspirations by looking at the necessary skills that they should have, so that they can pursue the chosen paths that they aspire for. And along the way, we need also to provide opportunities, that resiliency, so that they have the opportunity as well to know the rights, and to safeguard them as well. So looking at the four pillars, uh, there are also enabling mechanisms to ensure that all of these critical success indicators are well afforded. And so enabling mechanisms in terms of governance and management should be also in place. To put more meaning in the basic education development plan, sometime in 2023, during the basic education reports, our Vice President and the Secretary of the Department of Education launched the Matatag Agenda. This pertains to the list of priority strategic actions that support the uh, attainment of the Basic Education Development Plan along the pillars of access, equity, quality, and resiliency and well-being. And it is a very concrete uh, uh, declaration of how are we going to deal with, by making the curriculum relevant to our learners, by taking steps to accelerate the delivery of basic education, to take good care of our learners, and to provide support to our teachers. So along this line, we use all of these documents in the issuance of the interim guidelines, so that we know that we are guided along the way to ensure that we are towards the same direction. All of the delivery units, starting from the schools up to the central office, and that the interfacing and the connection really happens and is fluid. We make use of all of this as basis for the office performance commitment. So on the next slide, let me just look at the uh, some basic, no, the the business of education. We are provided with budget, and the budget has a certain cost structure that pertains to general administration and support, the operation, and support to operation. So as we perform our these functions and services expected from us, particularly down the school and up to the central office, we look uh, at this cost structure. For one, for operation, the basic mandate of the department is to ensure that there is delivery of quality basic education services. And along that line, we also need to ensure that there are regulatory services in the operation and in the performance of the uh, functions and services that are expected from us. And in order to support that mandate, there is general management and supervision the legislative liaison services, the human resource development, the financial and administrative services. And in order to support that for decision making and to ensure that our programs, our initiatives are actually gearing towards addressing emerging and continuing issues of quality basic education, the planning and policy formulation, the program monitoring and evaluation, public information, programs, research and development, statistical services, information systems development are in place to support the operation. And on the next slide, we also look at the governance and enabling mechanisms in that the functions of and services that we're talking about in relation to the quality management system we have been pursuing for quite a while may refer to the core functions and services, the management functions, and the support function. So all of this should be happening, all of this should be well integrated, and this must be robust in all of the delivery units. So the governance enabling mechanisms also capture in the next slide within the theme of that uh, cost of operation. So the governance and enabling mechanisms in terms of how we regulate our services, how we regulate our schools, how we ensure that the delivery of education services fall within the parameters of quality and excellence, and how do we support its normal day-to-day operations in terms of general administration and support, and what policies have been uh, formulated, and how are these being implemented to ensure that the support to operation is also vibrant and seamless. So let me go to the reason why we have to issue an interim guidelines for the performance. So let us look at DepEd performance management system on the next slide. We know that DepEd order number 2 series of 2015 was issued to ensure that there is an established guidelines and the implementation of the RPMS in the Department of Education. And the department order guides us in order to uh, ensure that all delivery units, offices are guided on what to do on an annual basis of defining their targets, performance targets, how to monitor them, and even assess to what extent have we achieved at a certain point. However, on the next slide, we would like to uh, c- we would like to establish that this department order. On the next slide, please. We need to have an update on the ongoing initiative, and the reason why we issued this interim guidelines is that while there is an ongoing initiative to revise the RPMS, the DO2 2015 in particular, we are cognizant of the fact that there were various internal and external demands and priorities that emerged. And for us to be responsive, for us to be relevant on the changing landscape of education, as well as the public request for improving the quality of services, we need to look at the DO. And this has been implemented for almost 9 years now. And so, to ensure relevance and alignment with the set of priorities and demands, we issued the interim guidelines for the FY 2024 OPCRF planning and preparation. We put in there onwards because that is the direction now. For one reason, that our current performance management system barely captures the organizational outcome. So, why do we say that? If this has been implemented since 2015, and our definition of accomplishment and achievement seem to be very identical, and we measure in terms of what have we done without necessarily identifying the impact of what have we done on the attainment of what we aspire for in the Department of Education. It's really high time for us to revisit and ensure that all our effort really capture the initiatives, the undertaking, the endeavors of our delivery units that contribute to the organizational outcome. So let me just proceed with the uh, uh, next slide by looking at the direction. So our direction now is to strengthen that mechanism in capturing the contribution and achievement of the different governance levels to the organizational outcome of the department. Please note, and I highlight contribution and achievement. It's not just making sure that there are activities being conducted. We need to look at how those activities, those PAPs, programs, activities, and projects are implemented has may have impact on the attainment of the organizational outcome by ensuring that schools in one direction, division offices, regional offices are actually in the alignment and in pursuit of the achievement of the organizational outcome. So that is where we are coming from, and we are actually getting the support of our schools and all delivery units to make it happen. Next slide, please. So, how are we going to deal with the 2024 performance management? Okay, so the FY 2024, I'm sorry, that's calendar year. The 2024 OPCRF shall have the following features. One, it has the element of our commitment to organizational outcomes. We will also capture the innovating and intervening accomplishments. We need also to identify how effective the organization is by looking at parameters within which we can identify whether there is an existing organizational effectiveness defined by each of the parameters to which we are being measured. Sometimes, and I need to be very honest on this, we are reporting something which we consider as an accomplishment, but probably not necessarily contributing. And this could be identified as nice to have rather than must have. We also need to look at the leadership competencies and the core behavioral competencies. The last two, the leadership competencies and core behavioral competencies, pertains to the individual head of the office or the delivery units, just to ensure that we make a substantial contribution as an individual in making progress in our respective areas of jurisdiction. Knowing the fact that as contained in the current guideline, the OPCRF of the head of office is actually the IPCRF of that individual. So we try to merge that by looking at the office outcomes and the individual outcomes. So let me try to dissect each of the components of the salient features of the OPCRF. Let us look at the commitment to organizational outcomes. Excuse me. So, in terms of office performance measure, which is contained in Part 1A of the OPCRF, this is about 60% as a measure, and it shall capture the office commitments, our performance and accomplishments based on its mandates and key result areas, the contributions of the office directly targeting the organizational outcomes as may be indicated in the General Appropriations Act, the GAA programs, sub-programs, in terms of the PREXI, the Basic Education Development Plan pillars, and the Matatag Agenda. Why is it that we consider that? So, to provide certain liberty and flexibility based on the nature of the delivery units to ensure that there is still alignment along these uh, documents that we have. So it's necessary that we can uh, put entirely what do we envision to happen for 2024. We do understand that it's already second quarter of the calendar year, but you know, we would like to somehow even so much later that we do the tweaking right now so that by 2025 when we are able to come up with the revised guidelines on the RPMS, everybody has already a feel of how to do it and ensure whether there is some uh, indications that we are making a dent in the way we measure and establish the performance management system. Next slide, please. We look at the innovating and intervening accomplishments. Okay, there are innovations, there are interventions. That's a fact. But are those interventions really targeting or contributory to the organizational commitments? So, in that effect, that account for 20% in the office performance measure, the innovating and intervening accomplishments should capture the outputs, the outcomes of the office that are enabling, supportive, and or contributory to the achievement of the organizational commitments. Say, for example, if our target is to ensure that there are about 70 or 60% of our learners achieving mastery of a certain competency and in a certain key stage, then there must be some innovations on the way we do things. So we're shifting to a certain point where we say that this is a kind of intervention that we need to make a mark of improvement. Okay. And that captures under the quality aspect, and that also captures the uh, indicators, outcome indicators, and output indicators as discussed in the GAA. So all of this should be enabling. You can even look at the process improvement that contributes to the KRA of the office. And of course, those process improvement should include addressing the targets na maaaring hindi natin, we were not able to achieve in the previous fiscal year. On the next slide, we can look at our organizational effectiveness. Okay. So, the Department of Education is also being evaluated in terms of our accountabilities by oversight agencies by looking at several oversight accountabilities, and we tried to capture as well the organizational effectiveness in terms of certain parameters or outputs that are related to office performance, particularly in terms of oversight commitments, in, like the performance-based bonus oversight requirements, and that pertains to financial stewardship, process improvement, and client satisfaction, and even our daily operations. So we try to capture that as well in our OPCRF so that at the end of the rating period, we might have a single document that capture the overall or the annual accomplishment and looking at areas that need improvement, looking at areas that we can really review sort of providing an in-depth analysis why it has been happening. Perhaps uh, you might be wondering, and this question even has been posed even when I was a classroom teacher, and I was asking even myself that why is it that there has to be some reasons why uh, there is deteriorating performance in along the continuum of education. And as of this time, probably we don't have yet the good answer for that. Nonetheless, it's not too late for all of us to make that turnaround and make sure that the initiatives that we are doing, along with a certain framework of doing it, we can really make a difference. On the next slide, uh, we also look at the individual performance measures. As you can see, we look at the performance of the office, we look at the performance of the individual. And this particular portion on leadership competencies, which is 2.5 on account of the total uh, performance measure, is that uh, we need to look at the competencies that are expected from the heads of functional offices who are either middle or holding managerial and executive or supervisory positions by looking the indicators of leading people, performance management, people development. While we are, this might be somewhat uh, on a checklist basis, but we're looking forward to establishing a better measure for it. Nonetheless, this can also be used as an input to identifying our readiness to take on bigger and higher role and responsibilities. The next slide, which is the part 2B, also deal with individual performance measure, but these are uh, competencies that cut across all job groups within the organization. And these are core competencies relating to how the individuals embody and live the values of the organizations pertaining to self-management, professionalism and ethics, results focus, teamwork, service orientation, and innovation. So these are also checklists in such a way that we have the opportunity to reflect within ourselves and even your rater and approving authority on who should be given that consideration in terms of critical incidents or events that might provide have provided that opportunity to be rated on that in terms of all of these indicators. And on the next slide, there are also other components of the OPCRF, and I am pertaining to some components while I discuss the five components in terms of evaluation. The next three would be dealing on OPCRF components as a reportorial requirements. So, as I mentioned, on the next slide, there is some connection. There are some connections within these parts of uh, three elements which pertains to reportorial requirements, the summary of ratings, the office improvement plan, and the individual development plan. So how does summary of ratings look like? So in that, the summary of rating shall provide the overall performance rating of the office obtained from Part 1A up to Part 2C of the OPCRF. So, which means we need to look at how the organizational commitment happens in the school, how and what are those intervening and innovating initiatives that have been done, and how that does it contribute to the attainment of the organizational outcome, and of course our ability to establish mechanisms on making sure that the organization is effective in what it is doing, as I mentioned, along areas of financial stewardship, operational efficiency, client satisfaction, and everything. And then the next one is on the office improvement plan. Why do we need to do this? Because as embodied as well in our quest for a national quality management system, of which we're trying to cascade everything on a phased approach from the CO, RO, and SDO, we're also looking at how schools should be able to capture and document its own improvement process. And the improvement and development plans of the school shall detail the action of the office or the school, reflecting the strength and areas for development and improvement as a result of the performance review and evaluation. And it should define some steps and uh, concrete actions to improve performance within the context of organizational goals. So, like for instance, if the school is perennially getting a very low performance in terms of one areas of operation, that could be something that they can really look up to. And lastly is on the individual improvement plan. The individual development plan shall detail the learning objectives based on the strength and areas for improvement of the individual rating. At ito po ang magiging basehan natin ng mga initiatives for the design and implementation of interventions for personal and professional growth of the ratings. So, in effect, we're trying to veer away from the usual practice of sending out links, uh, asking people down the line what are the common interventions that we can know we can somehow develop and make accessible for them, but the document will itself will tell that these are the L&D interventions that should be provided to schools on the basis of that performance. So I think to sum it up, uh, we'd like to streamline our commitments and targets so that knowing that all of that components, we look at how. So how it's going to be. Una, what the central office will be doing at the start of any fiscal year and upon approval of all the the initiatives and PAPs, we will cascade the organizational outcomes based on the Prexy, and we will provide that opportunity for the delivery units within the Matatag framework on how this organizational outcome can be achieved. As we cascade it down in terms of several statistics, several programs, outcome indicators, then moving up and going back to the CO so that there is some sort of connection, is that we would like to establish the contribution of the organizational outcomes of the delivery units from CO, RO, SDO, and schools. So there is a sort of interfacing, sort of connection. So the accountability and responsibility has been shared among offices and among individuals as well, so that the accountability as defined in the accountability authority and responsibility are well defined, and within that we can also draw and deduce some other mechanisms parameters to identify what delivery units who are performing well and who are actually making that contribution. Of course, without necessarily doing the usual ranking, but of course on a communication on establishing a communication that these are the areas within which you need to improve on, and we would like also to recognize areas to which the significant contributions have been made. So how are we going to do that? On the next slide, I'd like to present to you the phases, the task and activity. This will be discussed in full detail later. So let me skip that area, but move on to the accountability matrix. So, in the alignment of the organizational performance with the organizational outcomes, we look at the organizational outcome based on the GAAT FY 2024 along this Prexy and some of the initiatives that are introduced based on the Matatag agenda. But we look at the outcome indicators of, like for instance, the percentage of public schools meeting the standard ratio for teachers. So there are certain offices and at different layers of governance which are accountable for such uh, by of course looking at the OER's HROD, the BHROD, SED in particular, the regional office in terms of the administrative division personnel, and the schools division offices in terms of SGOD and in the admin personnel. So we are trying to come up with that accountability matrix so that we know who is responsible for what, and even identifying to which a certain process ends and when the that process starts, which means we are also trying to establish the fact that the seamless connection and interfacing between and among people and each office is concerned should be seamless and really fluid. On the next slide, we have also to look at the detailed discussion on that. I mentioned about organizational outcome and I mentioned about Prexy. And as we said, there are certain outcome and output indicators. Uh, these accountability metrics are even well defined, and there are indicators that are not actually reflected for one reason. In the context of how do we operate as an agency, we know that the central office is tasked to do the policy formulation, the standard setting, the direction setting. The regional office is in terms of standard adjustment, support to policy implementation, support to other delivery units. And division and schools in terms of standards compliance, policy implementation, and providing feedback on the policies and even achievement of the uh, daily operations targets and eventually move that. So what I am trying to say is that there are indicators, whether outcome or output, that may not be directly reflected in the a certain delivery units, but anything that they are doing within operations, then doing their functions, key result areas, as a summary of that, could really contribute on the attainment of the organizational outcome. So in a more detailed, using numbers and the statistics, and in terms of performance targets, like for instance, we look at here on the policy development under basic education research fund. uh, One of the targets under number of policies formulated, reviewed, and issues and education researches, uh, there is a certain number which is as committed in the General Appropriations Act, a total of 560 for FY 2024. This 560 is distributed across several regions, and each of them shall have 35. And chances are there will be out of the 35, say for instance, in Region 1 of the researchers can be coming from your schools. And we would like to ensure that all of those initiatives, in particular, support the outcome indicator that completed education researches are used for policy development. And of course, uh, as a result, there must be some sort of client satisfaction in terms of satisfactory feedback on the issued policies. So this is just a classic example on how the schools can really contribute on that. But you can focus really more on what are the deliverables that are concrete and really tied up with the operations of the school. Next slide, please. Okay, next slide. All right. So, can you go back to the previous slide before my last slide? Okay. So I mentioned about that just to mention, just to make sure that you are adept and you do understand your processes that are happening in your school, uh, in within the sphere of your authority, responsibility, and accountability within the areas of school-based management because as I mentioned earlier and on that particular slide, your OPCRF is not in terms of timeline, is in terms of a school calendar. So your commitment shall start at the beginning of the school year and shall be measured in terms of the end of school year. So, which means that schools shall follow the school calendar in the preparation of the OPCRF. So, in our case, since uh, there has been already a memorandum saying that the startup classes shall be July of 29 of 2024. Then we're looking at May at the end of the uh, school year. So, which means that the preparation of the OPCRF is on a yearly basis, school calendar as the reference, and that is can subjected to the issuance of the department order pertaining to school calendar. So that's how the school should be operating. So, with all of that in mind, I hope I have provided you with the overall perspective on the reason, the whys, and the hows of why we're doing this interim guidelines. Uh, but as I mentioned earlier as well, we would like also to hear feedback from you so that we can make even the policy more responsive and that could be the best input for the revision of the DO2 of 2015. So sa inyo pong lahat, maraming salamat sa inyong pakikinig. Magandang umaga po. Mabuhay po kayo. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Yusek Willie, for providing us with a solid context and well-rounded rationale of the issuance of the interim guidelines. So we were able po to capture that while we have our office mandates and functions as offices in various governance levels, meron po tayong iisang direksyon. At lahat na ating contribution or efforts ay patungo sa iisang direksyon na kung saan ito ay ang achievement ng DepEd's organizational outcomes. Muli, maraming maraming salamat po, Yusik Willie.
Thank you very much. Thank